上来 so
Yeah, I apologize, Prof, because you were always on time, on schedule also. Start from the previous meeting, but we already tried. We hope our students can also be on time, because actually it's working. It's time for the class also, the other class. So
okay, yes.
that's why they also, maybe they also try to uh, arrange their schedule too. Now it's now 40. Is it okay?
Or,
40.
or maybe we can uh, open this
Yeah.
lecture, Miss Chan.
Yes.
Hello, Prof. Huang. I'm Niken as a moderator today.
Uh-huh.
Okay, maybe we can start this webinar
Yes.
while we waiting another student to join. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable to Prof. Huang and all of the participants. Thank you for coming in webinar Human Resource Development for Rural Enterprise. Okay, let me introduce myself as moderator today. My name is Niken. I'm lecturer in Faculty of Fishery and Marine University of Brawijaya. I'm a new lecturer. My background is information system, especially in making website for decision support system. I'm new in fishery, and I try to learn from all of you. Okay, the agenda for today, we have a limited time. We just have a 1 hour. First, lecture from Prof. Wang is about 30 to 45 minutes, and then question and discuss is about 15 minutes. If a participant there is a question, you can write it in a chat column, or next you can open mic and ask directly to Prof. Wang. The third session is photo session and fill the presents. Okay, let's we start the lecture from Prof. Wang. Thank you, Prof. You can start your presentation.
Okay. I would like to. Okay, great. So actually, well, I think I actually changed the title a little bit. It's in rural area, but that's fine. Okay. Next page, please. Actually, I have been talking for several times, so I can skip this page just in case someone is new. So next page, please. And of course, we want to follow on still the same thematic area. So this has been done. So next page, please. Okay, so the main issue, again, I want to remind everyone about this one. Okay, the next page, please. So the outline for today is, of course, it's about human resource development. So the importance of human resource development will be covered first. And I want to talk a little bit about employment in fishery sector. Of course, they are all in Taiwanese situations. And we will talk about some supporting facilitator or organization that's available to supporting it, like fishery research institution and educational institutions. And to be honest, it's a very challenging sector in terms of the how to recruiting a new member into this area of work. So the government actually trying very hard, but I'm not sure how effective it is. But they do show new method of try to getting people interested in the field of the work. So actually they provided like career development guide for job in this sector. And of course, the fishery extension through the Fishermen's Association and other nonprofit organization are the main focal point of the talk today. So next page, please. Before we go into it, there is a very interesting organization. I'm sorry I did not spell it out. It's the International Food and Agribusiness Management Association. So for the field of agribusiness, actually, we kind of look into more engaged participation in this dialogue among academia and industry. Because the membership in the IFAMA organization are mainly composed of academia, but they do invite interesting business people so that the dialogue is not just focusing down the academic side. But actually in 2012, they had a special academic issue on human resource development for agribusiness. So I kind of crop out the statement from there. They said that there are 3 items moving us toward food security in 2050. And they believe that the profession in agribusiness management as academia, as an entrepreneur, we should be the solution. So to become the solution for food security in 2050, there is some direction. They feel that for human resource development, we need to maybe looking at from this aspect. The first one is that we have to make sure that the flow of talent in the food agriculture sector still remains strong, and we will have the best people to do the job. And the second component is climate. So we need to adapt into the climate smart food and agribusiness system. So when we talk about human resource development in the rural areas, these components should be very important one. The last one is big data. For better analytics and deeper insight into management is from the management aspect is quite important component. So I think from the end of October, my talk has been more or less concentrate on this area, like the use of digital technology or smart agriculture is actually one of those directions we want to entice people, especially young people, when they look at the fishery industry, we want them to get interested in the help us modernize the sector. Next page, please. So actually, in terms of the human resource development, IFAMA has several segments in there. Okay, I think this is about employability and as well as how to entice people to look forward a career in this field. So, so in here, what been checked out is really about so from the employer's perspective, what do they need? So it says here, people with the right work ethic, training, competence, and skill will be, of course, for the sustainability of our sector, it's quite important. And the second one is identify and overcoming the barrier influencing the attractiveness of the food and agribusiness industry to young people in different regions. Okay, so actually they believe that it's not just about the higher education. We have to start it from the elementary school so that they have some exposure to understanding the sector. Okay, I think we are taking a serious step toward it through like food education. Okay, the third one is identifying the challenge to educational needs to enhance the flow of high quality talent into the industry, because we also want the best one to be here and be able to stay in this industry. They should be competent, they should be outstanding, they should love the industry. So the last one is initiation to conversation among the regional stakeholder and their network to begin crafting effective solution to the food and agribusiness talent flow issues. In here, I actually will cover the extension services in terms of the human resource development in the local region, following very much the suggestion in here. So I think even though this will be the only part I'm going to talk about, but I think I'm kind of looking at those statements seriously and to check what's happening in the field of fishery trainings and education. Next page, please. So I think here is really in terms of a sync point is where is the demand and where is the supply for the human resource in fishery. Okay, next page, please. Yeah, okay. So the demand side is what is the current fishery industry look like? Okay, already I talked about the fishery in Taiwan. We said, okay, we are seeing that aquaculture become interesting, exciting. But when we look at it, because we have to look at what is not from the national perspective, but also from the regional or the local perspective, because I think the title I have today is in rural areas. So fishery villages are all located in rural areas, okay, with some has the name suggested it is the city, but actually, for example, Kaohsiung City, but actually the fishery villages still located on the borrowing side of the city. Is not really in the center of the city. So this graph actually tells us, okay, what are the, there are regional differences in the engagements in terms of the outcome. The outcome is what is the current situation. Actually, this is for 2019. So we have the main island of Taiwan on the right-hand side, and the small boxes are our remote islands. So they actually engage very different activity. For example, we can look at National Pingtung University, of course, is located in Pingtung, okay? So in Pingtung, actually that the Far Sea fishery is still quite important, but not the biggest share anymore. The biggest one is actually aquaculture, because we look at the inland aquaculture, we have the marine aquaculture activities. So in comparison, the coastal of offshore fishery are not the main thing about the Pingtung area. For Kaohsiung, it's very different because we have one of the best harbor in here, fishery harbor for the Far Sea. So their Far Sea fisheries has the dominant importance in this one, okay, and followed by aquaculture, okay. But because their value from their Far Sea fishery are so high, because actually the circle doesn't represent the size, so the number is quite small there, but actually it's represented the size. For the value from the agriculture, I mean fisheries sector, actually Kaohsiung City alone account for like 27%. Okay, so why? Because it's because of its Far Sea fisheries. The city next to it is Tainan City. Okay, so Tainan City, it's famous for aquaculture. So you see, it's almost like a more than 90% of their fishery activity is concentrated in the aquaculture. So anyway, as I mentioned, they are very different situation. Like the middle part is the Taichung City. So in comparison, their offshore fishery is most important, followed by the coastal fisheries. Okay, so I think I'm just wanting to say here that the relative importance of different sectoral performance is a little bit different. Okay, So that influence what kind of a service at the local stakeholder or the extension agencies involved in doing the work in the local area is needing to do the work. So next page, please. So this is the value of a fishery. So the value created in here, you can see that the far sea is quite high, but the inland and marine culture stay strong in values. So maybe the quantity produced is not the biggest for aquaculture, but actually the values are. Okay, next page, please. And because we are talking about human resource development, so I need to maybe clarify a few terms that we use here. I use the term employment to actually cover from the statistics. I mean, from the fishery related statistic, when they say employment, they are using the definition we have here in the Fishery Act of Taiwan. So actually in the Article 4 of the Fishery Act, it says that for fishery operator is defined as the fishing right owners, the one who has the privilege to fishery assets. So it's basically the owner operator, okay? So, but when we say employee or then it's a fishery employee is crew members of fishing vessel or other person who catch, harvest, or cultivate aquatic organism for any fishery operator. Okay, so then it will be clear when I started to talk about the employment in this sector. Next page, please. So in terms of employment, we just remember the figures, right? The values is from inland and marine culture, okay? But in terms of employment, those people get hired by an operator to operate on the field. Actually, this is for the past 10 years. So for the Farsi, you don't really see big differences. It's kind of stay there. So the coastal area, the coastal and inland culture, marine culture are the main sources of employment. Because in here, the employment actually is talking about the employment statistics. So the employment statistics means that those people hired by fish operators or fishery right operators. So it doesn't include the owners, okay? But of course, owners would be who? In most prominent cases are actually predominantly the fishery households actually. So next page, please. So this is a breakdown of those different number in here. These yellow part are actually the nationals of Taiwan. So when we look at the employment statistics, it only talk about the national, okay? I want to have a chance to look at the foreign crews. So I included the green column. It's actually usually not included in the employment statistics. I'm just bring up these numbers so that we can make some comparison. For example, the Farsi has the 13,000 crew members, okay? And the percentage there actually is that out of the 13,000 some crew member working in the Farsi vessels, 91% of them are full-time crew member. The rest of the 9% is temporary, okay? But for Farsi, you still need to have people who work on land. So they have this terminology says landman. I'm not quite sure this is the proper term, but it's in the statistic in our English version. our annual statistical yearbook is bilingual. So, but in there, I have to honor their translation. So landman means people who work on land. Okay. So in terms of landmen, 89% are full-time and only 11% are part-time, and they don't have other employment. For offshore, they have 90% full-time and the crew member, and 69% of the landmen, because apparently they can engage in other businesses. So their percentage of the landmen has actually lower in percentage. For the coastal area, as I mentioned, that the coastal means that it's really small, in some cases, even with very limited power for their, and I cannot even say that it's a vessel, it's probably a board, a sampan. So they normally travel within the day and don't make the catchment. So most of the, so in here, then you can see that actually the crew member in this coastal fishery taking up the biggest number in terms of crew member and landmen as well. Okay, and the percentage of people doing the full-time job in here is smaller. But because the coastal is mostly for the fresh catch of the day, so there will be a lot of other people working on the other activity, such as processing or packaging, sales, and others. Okay, so there are a lot of other employment in this field. So it doesn't have to be the one go to the seas and to make the catchment. So for inland culture, marine culture, or inland fishing, because we don't have a vessel, so it doesn't call the crew members. So they don't have, they don't separate a crew or landman. So so basically they are all in the other category. I mean, they don't really separate it. But then the inland fishing is comparatively small because our stream are pretty small. So not so many people doing the inland fishing activities, but we do have lakes. So we still have some lakes and the water reservoir that they have some fishery activities allowed. So, but then in here, you can see that only 10% of the people who employ the inland fishing are full-time. Okay, it means that okay, 10% means only 700 some people who are doing the work. Okay. And again, this also including processing and fishery product preparation, restaurant services, and all this that will be using these resources directly. Okay, so marine culture, we have because it's on the surface of the water, so it's more challenging. So there are less number there, and but for inland culture, we have the biggest employment. So in terms of the total employment in this field, you can clearly see that they are coming from the inland culture. So aquaculture is still very important, and we have coastal catches. It's still there. Okay. So that's why we still have so many fishery harbor operated under the Fishermen Association and other organizations. So in comparison, on the right-hand side, of course, is the foreign crew. For the Far Sea, actually, these foreign crew are employed overseas. It means that it actually is not employed in Taiwan at all. We have overseas landing harbors, and they were probably working from there. So by default, it's defined as such. Okay, so it means that when the Far Sea vessels traveling in other continents, okay, they probably will recruit their crew from those areas. Okay, so so normally it's, but when you look at it, for us, it's a big challenge. We said, okay, Far Sea in terms of the values are still is very important, but the employment from the total crew number, our foreign employment is bigger, much bigger than our local ones. So one of the main theme in terms of the career development is that the government want to recruit new graduates from universities to work as a crew member for our FASI, because they said, okay, they are declining in number, and then we have to rely on the foreign employment. So this is the perspective. But for the domestic employment is for the offshore and the coastal one. So in comparison, the foreign crew number are much smaller than what are from the local employment. So there is a gap that needed there. So that's why we allow for the employment from the domestic sources to, recruiting from the human resource agency to try to recruit people who work in the offshore and coastal area. But the total number is 13,000. Next page, please. Okay, so this is where our foreign crew come from. Okay, so for the overseas employment from our Far Sea area, actually Indonesia is pretty big. It's 60% out of this 21,000 people. Okay, followed by Philippines because of it's near to us, and then China. Normally, China is not included in the statistics, so I added it to see how it came out. Okay, because you know our relationship with China. It's difficult for us to say whether they are foreigner or not. Okay, so domestic employment, it means that the domestic means that it applied the Employment Service Act of our Labor Ministry of Labor. So it has to follow strict requirement on, a lot of precondition and welfare issues. They have to follow our the same as our local people. So the Employment Service Act is not just for the foreigner, it's also for the domestic labor, the labor from our own nationals. They also need to follow this exactly the same rules. Okay, so that's in the Employment Service Act cover all these people except for China, because China doesn't apply to the Employee Service Act. They have a separate rule on the employment of the Chinese people. But still in here, for the coastal and offshore vessels, the crew member, okay, they are limited to the crew member, and Indonesia actually has also the dominant number of 69%, followed by Philippines and Vietnam. Okay, and other country, there are like more than 20 countries there, but the number are pretty small. So the other numbers is there. Okay, next page, please. So as I mentioned that that was about employment, but actually for the some of the fishery sectoral operator are actually fishermen's households. Okay, so fishermen's household, because they are not employed, because they are operator. So so it's a different category. Okay, so in here, fishery household is very important for the stability of our rural area in the fishery villages. So it's quite important to look at what kind of the composition of jobs they have. So actually, you can see here, not too surprisingly, because the employment in the coastal part is, of course, is the highest one, and that reflected in the family. So how many fishery family we have? We have 129,000 families engaged in the fisheries, defined as a fishery household. We look at the population, the distribution is almost the same. So it means the biggest employment is, engagement is on the coastal fishery, and then followed by inland culture. and offshore fishing vessels. And so there are not too many people engaged directly for the far sea or even marine culture. So the coastal and the inland culture are most important for the fishermen's households. Okay, next page, please. Now we look at the supporting unit for the human resource development. So in terms of the industrial research about the fishery related research, we have Academic Sinica, which is under the presidential's office, is the highest research unit in Taiwan. But so it means that they should be doing like lead research in these fields. Okay. The second one much closer to the livelihood of the fishery households, or is really the Fishery Research Institute. You can see from the map that the academia is Academia Sinica is only one unit. It's the purple color one. So the green colors are the research Fishery Research Institute. They are really pretty much consistent with the distribution of fisheries in the previous slides on the fishery sectors. So you can see that there are actually 6 of those. So one in Keelung area, because it's a headquarter. It has branch offices in Taichung area, in Tainan, Chiayi. Actually, the 5th circle is located in Pingtung, so it's in Donggang area, and the one on the East Coast is number 6. Okay, so for those area that maybe no fishery institute is near, but then we have the city and the county government that they have their own specialized research unit attached to it. So there are several important ones that they definitely put important note of those, and they have separated fishery researches in their administration. Next page, please. So in terms of, you see very similar mappings in here for educational institution. We have 8 national universities that have fishery or aquaculture or marine lives kind of disciplines. So in total, out of the 8 universities, we have like 20 some departments that are related to this field of research or extension work. And then we have 9 national high schools that have vocational programs in fisheries. Okay, so these are the map out of those vocational high schools, and you'll see that those locations are matching very well with our research support, because they are, if there is strong needs in the local area, definitely there will be a research institution there, and then we have educational supporting very near to it. Okay, so they want to provide education opportunity for these major fishery areas, in particular from the fishermen's households. Their youngsters are more than likely the first layer of people who will be recruited to try to work in the field. So we want to make sure that these services is rendered through those vocational high school system that we have. Next page, please. And we do have a channel of promotion, and this one is from the national government. They have a fishery radio station that broadcasting a lot of things, and we have a fishery extension magazine. It's a e-magazine. It's a monthly magazine. Every month they're publishing it. So this one is the nearest one. It's published in October 27 something. Okay, so actually for this this volume, the thematic item is ornamental fish. So it's the tiny shrimp that we see on the cover page. And actually, it's e-book. Of course, if you want to look at, I'm sorry, it's not bilingual because the targeted audience apparently is the local people. So it's kind of interesting to cover the fishery education from the primary schools into the research institution, what is the new direction for the research and all this kind of thing, and even story about the young farmer. So it's comprehensively covering a lot of interesting things. Because I think I'm going to run out of time, so I have to speed up, okay? Next page, please. So I actually, during the talk about the fishery association, I mentioned a little bit about that where is the local funding for the extension service come from? It's actually from here, okay. The Fishermen Association Act, Article 42, says that the overall profit of the Fishermen's Association should be allocated including several items. But actually the two items that are most important are, and actually percentage-wise, it's pretty high, is item number 3. The funds for fishery improvement, promotion, training, and cultural welfare business should not be less than 62% of their profit. Okay. But if the Fishermen Association is not making profit, then what can we do? Then they can requesting funding from the central government to provide some fund for them to do the extension work. And the 8% of fund should be doing the joint training or mutual aid, meaning that they can help other fishermen association to conduct training together. For example, maybe the Fishermen Association in Pingtung, the Donggang one, is very, very powerful and making a lot of money, and they don't want to spend it. They can making training with their nearby Fishermen Association, or going even further by hosting national training for everyone. Next page, please. And actually, for the university to be able to support the fishery extension, or because all the university in Taiwan is under the supervision of the Ministry of Education, especially for national university, we have to follow everything what the Minister in Education has to say. But in terms of the research component, our funding comes from the Ministry of Science and Technology. So this is very important unit for us to conducting research related activity. The third one component is the Council of Agriculture is our Ministry of Agriculture, okay? So the 3 units came together to jointly make a rule governing the extension support of the university faculty. Actually, basically what it says is that we should have extension related research supported by the Ministry of Science and Technology. And we should have extension services provided by the faculty members of the university. But in order to do this, okay, the need side will be assessed by the Council of Culture, but the supply side of the personnel who will be doing the extension work should be allowed. So basically, this rule says the Ministry of Education should allow those people who are doing, have under the heading of as a extension professor to make extension work part of their teaching obligation. So we can use extension work and don't need to teach so many hours. Okay, so that's the kind of thing. Okay, it's not just about fishery, culture also the same. So we'll go to the next page to talk about the next page, please. So this is a general formatting of how this local stakeholder has to say. So the fishery or culture extension committee of the university, for example, in National Pingtung University of Science and Technology, NPUST, because we have a lot more culture departments than the fishery. So, so our committee name is called a culture extension committee, but the fishery definitely, the professor in charge of fishery extension definitely is member of this extension committee. But like the Ocean University, okay, because their name is Ocean, so they don't have agriculture extension, they only have fishery extension faculty. So it will be called Fishery Extension Committee of the university. So basically, we were be the linking point with the research institution and to the outreach point of the Fishermen's Association. So in both of the National Fishermen's Association and the District Fishermen's Association, they have the extension department. So on the right-hand side, it's really one of the examples. Actually, this I crop it out from the Donggang Fishermen's Association. So this is what their extension department has several divisions. They, the most important one that's shared by all the fishery extension division is the fishery extension work, production marketing groups, home economics group, and the 4-H clubs. So actually one of those home economic groups in some fishermen's association, they were specified that only women or those engaging in home economic activity can attend as member of the home economic group. Okay, next page, please. I think I'm finishing up very quickly. And so this is a career guide on fishery. So like this one is a newly compiled one in 2020, October. It's really fresh, okay. So the purpose actually is to nurture young fish farmers, okay. So the government, since 2015, we have like giving like the names of the top 100 young farmer counseling service. So they were be helping them doing some training in technology, but also doing the marketing, financing, so that they can be sure that they can, in a way, engage in the fishery industry as an entrepreneur. And we have a special scholarship program for farmer school or those in agriculture. We have several university initiated because the funding is a 4-year funding for undergraduate curriculum tuition scholarship program supported by the Ministry of Agriculture. So I think well, the guidebook is very thick, so I tried, but it's difficult for me to really translate everything. So basically what in this career guide, it includes several jobs, like to be a government officer in charge of fishery, or to be the crew member working on far sea vessel. They have also special subsidy and guaranteed salary for this kind of job. And for people who were doing internship in the summer or in the winter break or in semester, because we started to have the full semester internship program initiated. So they also provide this one to channel these university students or graduate to be engaged more closely with the fisheries sector. Next page, please. So I think I'm done. So what are the interesting topics that motivated you? And I think this is the time for me to take in the question and the answer. So 45 minutes. Exactly.
Okay, thank you, Wang, from your explanation. Okay, there is one question in the chat column.
Yes.
Okay, it's about education in fishery and marine. How we can start education from elementary until college, because in Indonesia, just if we want to learn about fishery or become fishery operator or employment, we just have undergraduate program, not from elementary. We don't know we become fisherman or anything.
Okay, I think for the elementary school, the focal point is about marine culture. So so that people know what is fishery, they feel that they are close to the ocean front. So actually, it's not the Ministry of Agriculture or what we call Council of Agriculture is doing. It's actually, we have a different unit in the government. It's called the Marine Affairs. The Ocean Affair Council. It was only established like 2 years ago. 2-3 years ago. But they do take in the ocean education. So it's not really fishery education. It's more like ocean education. But from the Ministry of Agriculture's perspective, they are collaborating with the Ministry of Education so that they are in their there is a section in the elementary education is about know your countryside or know your hometown. So they have this fishery exposure or they were taking guided tour of the study guide to talk about fishery market and what are the different forms of fishery product emerge from the fishery sector, or what is life like in the fishery harbor. So actually there are a pretty good manual. I did not include in here because I saw the topical area is about the higher education, but I did came across this, like they have a guidebook written to be used by the instructors in the elementary school to use. So it has a template on what activity they should include in their teaching about this marine culture or fisheries in this area. For the middle school level, because by definition, our labor is not, well, the working age should be at least 15-year-old. It means that we have actually 9 years of a compulsory education for like 40 years. And then now we are extending our compulsory education into 12 years. So it means that even a few years from now, we won't be able to get any people who are between the age of 15 to 18 because they are supposed to be still in high schools. But anyway, in the middle school, we have the exposure training curriculum to, especially in the fishery villages, on what is like to be a crew member, okay, in the fishery vessel. So they have like some exposure to it, and they have several vocation. The middle school in the rural villages will have some curriculum on their early career exploration. So for vocational high school, though, we have general high school and fishery specific high schools, but I think now we are trying to make the line blur. It means that even for the general high school, they can have fishery related curriculum so that the people will not be limited to the initial choice when they are still young, like 16-year-old. How can a 16-year-old know what they want to do in the future? So they said, okay, you should have the option open, but if there is a strong need for the family to wanting them to do the job early, then maybe there are already people who are strongly like the concept of working in the fishery industry, then they can do it. And so that's why we have that 9 national high schools doing it. The thing is that doing agricultural or fishery related training or education is really expensive. So private school doesn't like to, engaging in this kind of training. So that's why our vocational high school, even there are public schools, there are national schools that have a particular design for them to get into the business in early, but still not very. I think the challenging here is that some fishermen's household, they will say, okay, the reason I'm paying you the money to study marine biology is not to work in the fishing vessel. You should be doing your desk work. You should do the research, and you should make more money. The life on the boat is too hard. So that's the challenging part. So that's why we started to say, oh, we can use modern technology to detect where the fish are, and using IoT so that we don't need to catch it directly. So I think we try to convince people that there are new exciting things in here. I did not have the chance to talk about it last time on the digital agriculture, but one of the interesting device recently they are making it public is the fish selection machine. So it's a AI aided machine. So your fish grading can be done automatically. So you don't need to make even your hand dirty, even you're on the fishing vessel. So yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, Prof. Wang. So if I can conclude that from elementary, we can just introduce about ocean, how we love our ocean, how we know about our territory. And
Yes.
then for the specific curriculum, we have a vocational high school,
Yes.
especially in fishery and marine. Okay, because in Indonesian, not yet there is not yet vocational high school, especially in fishery and marine. Maybe it can be a good opportunity to ask a lecturer to expand our education from vocational high school. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's not fishery is complicated nowadays. So the ability to use in information technology to be able to analyzing data. So actually, our vocational high school not only about catching fish or biology, they actually have an engineering component, like how to maintain a boat. Okay, so the electricities and all that thing. So.
Okay, maybe I have a background in information system, but I'm now
Yes.
a lecturer in fishery and marine faculty in Universitas Brawijaya. So it's interesting to know about how technology can merge in fishery, and especially I like to make research about decision support, big data, and etc. Maybe I have one question for you, Prof. Wang.
Yes.
Especially for big data, big data, we must have a good data. How is your institution or department maybe can give example the result of research in fishery that as a result of a big data analytic can impact government policy in Taiwan?
Okay, I think in our university, because the department name is aquaculture. So as I know, the aquaculture department actually has a collaborated project with the Department of Management Information System. So they are actually helping them with like working with them on setting up sensor in the aquaculture ponds, and so that they can they have a. It's not our well, they have I'm sorry, I'm not very I only learn about their output, so I'm not quite sure the process. But yeah, they just make it public that they made a diagnostic system that can be worked in the aquaculture pond, so to identify the basic the best management practice on like controlling the paddling of the because using the air pumps, the paddling is the most expensive part of the inland culture. So how to smartly using less of electricity to run the paddling system is one of those things. Another one is actually fish selection, or how can you remotely check in the growth rate of the fish in the ponds. Okay, so they actually are helping them design this kind of a system so that you can alleviate the burden of having to go to the pond all the time. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so it's a big work. Yes, Prof. Wang. It's a big work that involve many uh, researchers. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Maybe there is another question from participant. Maybe you can open mic, ask directly to Prof. Huang. Anyone else? Okay, there is one question from Arsenio Javi Zulfikar. Okay. Good morning, Prof. And
Yes.
I would like to ask two questions. Is the high amount of fishermen in coastal area are related to customer demand? Are there any law that prevent China from being included in foreign employment in China? This is
I'm
the
not
question.
quite sure about the first one. Is actually because Taiwan is an island, so I think traditionally coastal fishery is very important for the fishery household. So fisherman's household is like it's a tradition. So so the second one, and because of the catchment issue is really, as I said, the livelihood of the fishery household. From the demand side, though, some people started to concern that in the coastal area, some townships have like big industry. Okay, so they were afraid that this highly polluting industry might pollute the water, so that the fish from this area will not be safe to consume. That's one thing. Another one, so that's why they need to test for not the chemical residue, but actually for heavy metals and potential pollutant from this area. So I think we are constantly monitoring the ocean water in the coastal area to make sure that if we have such concern, then this area will not be allowed to be fished. So I think this is still an ongoing one. So any law that prevent China from being included in foreign employment in China, I'm not quite sure. What that question is.
Are there any law?
From the Chinese perspective, Taiwan is part of them. So of course, then we cannot be counted as foreigner. Okay. From our own perspective, we do have a bipartisan. Major two parties that have different positions. One is that ultimately we'll be uniting these two countries. Okay, and Chinese are saying, no, we are not two countries, you are part of us. So that's why we are not included in the foreigner. I think this is a little bit too political to talk about this definition thing, but anyway, so so that's why in the statistics part, we apply different law to the Chinese people because by definition is they are not a foreigner, okay, in our system, but we are not part of China, so that's another issue. So they are not resident of Taiwan, so it basically what the law says, okay, for the territory of Taiwan, we have our own government to run it, and so that will be a separate counting for it. But there is a need for the local people. Actually, the fisherman's household, at the beginning they believe that the Chinese is better because they don't have linguistic barrier. But I think in recent years, we do have other concern here, and because of the, so it's about the issue of employability, and don't put everything in one basket. So that's why the government actually is strong on supporting the idea of moving south, so that we want to be friends with our southern neighbors. So we have this so-called new southbound policy that we want to have a closer link with Southeast Asia, with South Asia, with other Pacific island country and Oceania. So anyway, so that's the situation.
Okay, Prof. Huang. So maybe I can conclude that term China in your presentation is different with Taiwan people, fishermen Taiwan. Okay, because they have a different government management.
Yes.
Okay, and then for the fishermen, there is two kind of fishermen. First is a fisherman operator and fisherman employment that have that is a entrepreneur, maybe. And then the second is a fisherman household, that is a traditional fisherman.
Yeah.
Right, Prof. Wang. Okay, thank you. So that's the answer from the question from Arsenio Javi Zulfikar. And then the third question from Raihan Aji Pratama. Good morning, Prof. My name is Raihan Aji from MMBP class. Why are more fishery graduates choosing to work in other fields such as banking, etc.? It is because a small employment opportunity. Maybe in Indonesia, there is some fishery graduate choosing to work in banking or not in a fishery.
Yeah.
How about this in Taiwan?
Actually, my undergraduate is agricultural economics. In my class, okay, I think for agricultural economics, in the traditional people's traditional mind, they said, okay, you are doing agricultural economics, so it should be banks. So actually, majority of my classmates went to banking related business because the Fishermen's Association has a banking unit, which is called the credit department. So you are still in the fishery. It's just that you are not on the boat. So I think that's a difference. And so, yes, if they have, but for people who are trained in aquaculture, I think most of our graduates from the aquaculture department, they went to aquaculture related business. But of course, some are running like ornamental fish shop because they like ornamental fish, okay? Just like our graduate from veterinarian, actually, most of them started to run animal hospitals and animal pet shops. So anyway, so I think while there are, that's the market driven, these kind of markets are high pay, okay? And a lot of freedom. When you go to a fishing vessel, it's really very challenging. You have to be able to endure it. But I will take an example like one of the remote, smaller remote island off the coast of the Pingtung County is we call the Xiaoliuqiu. In that, because it's a really tiny island, they have the highest density of captains for the far sea and commercial boats, like the ocean liners. Because to be a captain of the boat, you have to have several years operating on the fishery vessel and other boats. So they have the highest percentage of people who will be who are the captains, but they never come back home. So they only have the money. So that little island is filled with rich people. It's just that they don't stay there. They are on the ocean all the time. Like, so, but they do have the highest density of people who are the qualified captain, and the per capita income is highest among their group. So sometimes we say, okay, if you are really good at it, okay, be the best, then you can still make a lot of money. But then the hardship part, okay, you'll be on board the ship for 18 months. So you won't be able to be around that much. So I think that's challenging for getting people interested in job and be willing to do it. Okay.
Okay, Prof. So if there is no job opportunity, we can create our job, or we can be an entrepreneur.
Yes, yes. I think I did not include in here, but the Fishermen's Association have a lot of jobs, like food processing or marketing, design. Okay, design the fishery product. So some people said, I know the product very well, I would like to do it. So if the fishery working on the boat is challenging, so let's make it remote.
Okay,
remote sensing and all that. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for your explanation. I think we have finished the question.
Yes.
Okay, the third agenda is a photo session. Please, everyone, to on your camera, so we will take the picture. ask to Mr. Agus to help screen capture, please. Maybe you can give big smile
Yeah.
or thumbs up.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, for the participant, please turn on your camera for take picture for documentation. Okay, there are 5 slides, so we can start. Okay. Okay, still turn on. Okay, we can start in 1, 2, 3. Okay, wait. Okay, wait for a minute. Okay, the second slide. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, the third slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the fourth slide. 1, 2, 3. And the last slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much for the cooperation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Agus. Yeah, the time is over. I hope this webinar, this lecture can give us a new knowledge, a new inspiration and benefit. I'm apologize for my mistake. Thank you to Prof. Wang that coming today. Thank you all participants. Thank you all komite. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Prof.
Yeah,
Prof.
I think this is the end of my lecture part, right? So tomorrow is for a different activity.
Yes,
So goodbye, and thank you so much for being a very patient audience. Okay, goodbye, bye-bye.
Goodbye, thank you very much.
Thank you all, Prof.
Jangan
Mimin.
lupa isi absen, presensi.
Oh iya, presensi. Tadi mungkin saya lupa mengingatkan teman-teman bisa mengisi presensi untuk hari ini. Slide-nya boleh di-share kah, Pak Agus, ke teman-teman mungkin?